Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Bells Must Ring podcast. I am your host, Andrew Rice, here with my usual co host, Arnav Sarkar. It has been a slow week in the world of Rutgers athletics. Um, not really too much on our agenda here today. It is kind of a telling episode when women's basketball is the main topic of the
Yeah.
episode. But the Lady Knights were out there in Princeton battling against the Tigers. Unfortunately, they did not take home the win. They did lose by 18 points to Princeton, 81 to 63. Despite looking much better from their blowout loss against Iowa, number 12 Iowa, they still lost by 18. They kept it close throughout most of the game, to my knowledge, but got pretty much blown out in the fourth quarter. Princeton is receiving votes, so obviously no slouch of a team there. Arnav, you really covered the game for us. You had the chance to sit down and watch it. What can you tell us about that women's basketball game?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it wasn't great. But
Obviously not.
compared to the Iowa game, I mean, like definitely looked a lot better. And that was one of my biggest questions after the Iowa game getting demolished like that. Like, how do you respond? Like, Iowa is number 11 in the country, or yeah, they actually took a tough loss to Iowa State on the road, so that I guess shows a jump in competition there because Iowa State's the 10th ranked team. They have Audie Crooks. I saw some of the highlights of that on ESPN. So but that was a back and forth game, in state rival. They lost by 5, but compared to where Rutgers is at, I mean, Iowa was like just there was no contest. And then against Princeton, that's also a team that's receiving votes in the poll, so they're no slouch. They might not be as good as an Iowa or a Maryland or somebody who's a ranked team. They're not currently ranked, but and I think that showed. But they're still on the borderline, and like I said, receiving votes. So no slouch of a team, and they're 10-1. They only have one loss this season to Maryland, which is why I brought them up. They beat Penn State. They beat multiple other Power 6 schools, I guess, if you want to include the Big East. They beat Villanova, Georgia Tech on the road, both of them. They beat Penn State on the road. They beat DePaul, but DePaul's just really not that good. But they beat Rhode Island, which Rutgers also beat. They beat Seton Hall. So I mean, they've beaten a lot of pretty decent teams that are what you consider a high majors. I think this is their 6th victory over a high major this season. And like I said, their one loss came against Maryland by 16 points, but they hung decently close for a while in that game. Like they fell behind the first quarter, came back second, and Maryland's just, like I said, that's going to be a really tough team in the tournament and all that good stuff. They're looking to make a run, so they're like on another level. But compared to where Rutgers was, or how they played on Saturday versus Wednesday, they were very much in this game through 3 quarters. The offense comes back to life. But at the end of the day, Princeton was, able to pull away at the end. And I feel like, I don't know, it looks like Rutgers just really only got offense out of a few different players. And the rest of the team didn't really have much success. Nene Najai, who's been Rutgers' best player on this team this year. I mean, she bounced back after a rough game against the Hawkeyes. She had 20 points, 4 rebounds and 2 assists. Kayla Ivey made 5 3-pointers. She only shot threes, won 5 for 12, 15, 3 and 4. So, I mean, good performances there. Monty Lester's been pretty solid in the paint. She had 14. But, and then Faith Blackstone had 8. She's starting to come into her own after she missed the start of the season with an injury. So, I mean, that's kind of, where the women's team's getting their points. But other than that, I mean, it's just like Antonia Bates had 2 points, Akara Perkins had 2, Janae Walker had 2. I mean, there's a few players who don't really see a lot of playing time. And this one, I don't think Lauren Swan was playing, or Deja Young, and obviously,
Lauren Swan has been weird because I was the one
in and out, right?
I was the one who attended the Iowa game. That was her first game back from injury, and she was used mostly as a rotational piece. So
Right.
something tells me that she's not back up to full strength. Now, to be honest with you, if she is not back up to full strength, I don't understand why you would rotate her in against Iowa and not rotate her in against, against Princeton. I mean, I feel like you have to have a little bit of a talent analysis and expectation. I mean, Iowa is obviously still a step up from Princeton, no matter how you slice it.
Right.
Why not wait a little bit more, give them a little bit more time, rest, rehab, to have her be able to take a larger role in the game against Princeton because obviously she's one of the better players on the team. She went from a very good high major team
Right.
in Arizona. She did well there. She's considered the best transfer we have picked up this offseason in the transfer portal. So I don't understand what was the thinking behind maybe not rushing her, but rotating her in um, against Iowa, a clearly better Iowa, and not just waiting for her to rest and go for the Princeton game because obviously you know that you're the underdogs in both of them. But at least at that point, you would have one of your better players more readily available on the court. That's just,
Yeah.
Analyzing the situation, I highly disagree with the decisions made there.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I feel like you have a better chance against Princeton than Iowa. Even though Princeton's also a pretty good team, and it was on the road, and they still lost, but a much closer loss.
It was the same mentality that people were having when football played Ohio State.
Versus,
Rest some of the
yeah,
best starters for the big showdown against Penn State. While I don't necessarily agree with it in that scenario,
right,
because those players were not injured, but when you have a player
yeah.
that is injured,
I say when you're not injured, like that mentality, I don't really. That's not really a good one. Like with Ohio State, Penn State, because it's like, well, I mean, you're ducking good competition first of all, and you're resting them, and then they could be rusty. There's just like a lot of weird things that would go into that. I mean, I get the logic, like you don't want to take a risk, you want to get them rest, but it just doesn't
but the
really
injury
go
throws a
there.
different wrench in there that might
Yeah,
change your thinking.
yeah, because she was actually injured. She's not playing 100%. She's not playing in all the games. So why not save her for a game where you could really use someone like that rather than a game like, Iowa, where, I mean, I don't know. I guess on the contrary, like, you could argue that they needed every bit against Iowa after scoring because look what happened. And
Well, I
Princeton,
do I
I
do
mean,
agree with that, but she didn't really contribute in that game against Iowa either. She really didn't
no.
put much on the boards at all. But my whole thinking is, let's say she was 50% ready to go at Iowa, right?
Hmm.
I would rather take the 50% ready, the 60% ready to go at Princeton than the 50% ready to go at Iowa. Just because looking at how good that team is, you're going to struggle.
Right.
Like
Yeah, that's fair.
you know it. Obviously, no coach wants to go into the game having the mentality we're going to lose. But would you rather be full? You have to think about it like this: would you rather be full strength against Iowa or full strength against Princeton?
Right, right.
And if she
Yeah.
really was ready to go for Iowa, why was she not ready to go for Princeton? You know, that's like I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a weird situation. The injury load management, how they're working her back on, and yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's not too sure, honestly, like what the logic is with that one. But
Look,
hopefully,
I'm not a coach. I never will be a coach. I'm just saying, from an outsider point of view, it just didn't make sense.
yeah, no, I get that. Didn't yeah, it seems a little strange to me too, but hopefully she ends up being pretty, healthy for the rest of the way. Like obviously, Rutgers has a long layoff, and then another long layoff before Big Ten play starts. So it's definitely some time to um, rest, recuperate, and get back on the court, and for good, I guess. If that's the idea. So hopefully that does happen. But yeah, I mean, I'm not too sure why, but hopefully the long rest periods will definitely help with that. And other than that, I mean, yeah, like I was saying, like Rutgers, has a few players that scored, and and basically they got all their scoring out of four players, and that's just not. And as it is, it's already a small rotation. I mean, you have like basically 7 or 8 players who play every game and who really contribute, and you have a few that right now they aren't in that position. Like you've seen Ajay, Michaela Moore, who just who not walked on, but was recruited late in the cycle, a freshman, Kendi Brand, who I mean, obviously, like I like what she does and what she brings to the team, but she's not really going to give you points. I mean, she's You know what I mean? Like, unless she makes a three here or there, Precious Gem Wheeler right now, you don't really know what you're getting out of her. Sometimes she, might score, sometimes she won't. So, things like they have players like that on the team. And so out of their already small rotation, when 3 of the 7 players are also not really able to contribute much, like Antonia Bates and Janae Walker and, Zakara Perkins, who you're also relying on, then you're really, you only have so much offense. And against a team like Princeton, that's just not going to cut it, because they also had a very small rotation, though. That's the funny part. They had like even smaller rotation than Rutgers. They had basically 6 players that played over 20 minutes, and and 4 players in double figures. But their best players are even better than Rutgers' best players, like Fadima Tall, who had 28 points, was a career high. Ashley Chea, who had knocked down, I think, 4 threes, had 16. Olivia Hutcherson had 16. Madison St. Rose had 11. And then Toby Nweke, coming off the bench, had 7. They also had a few players who didn't play. They also had a small rotation, even smaller than Rutgers. But, like, I don't know. Like, I just feel like, if you're already going to have a small rotation, you're already going to have a few players who just, touch the court, basically. You can't really rely on them. And then you have, another 3 players who you do rely on that can't give you buckets, then you're really only relying on a few players to score all your points. And that's just not, that's not really a winning strategy.
It's not acceptable in today's basketball. It's not acceptable because we have such a. See, I feel like this team is going to look a lot different when Lauren Swan comes back full strength. I mean like full strength, starting, ready to go. And I obviously, you never want to be in a position where you're holding out for that one starter to come back. And even if she does, I'm not going to say this team is going to have a winning record or be anything stellar. I'm just saying you'll see a much bigger difference in overall talent. Maybe with her coming back, we go from a team that has a good chance to squeak its way into the Big Ten tournament versus a team that has a big chance just to completely miss it overall when she's not playing. Keep in mind that the women's tournament, unlike the men's this year, is the top 15 teams in the conference.
Mm-hmm.
Last year was the same, but this year for the men's, it's everybody gets in. For the women's, it's the top 15 that gets in. Without her, we are easily a bottom 3 team in the conference. With her, we have the opportunity to fight our way into, one of the lower seeds. The problem is how quickly is she going to come back, and if we can pick up some wins when she's not here.
Right.
No, I wish I had a better answer for you. But, it's going to fall largely on the shoulders of Nene Njai, because so far with Swan out, the offense has been going through her and her alone.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah, it really has been going through.
In a 68-point performance against Siena, where they did not look good.
Oh no!
To be honest with you, I believe 22 of those points came through Njai, and then the rest of the team
26. Yeah.
What's up?
Yeah, I'm seeing the box score. She had 26 points, and Lester at 10, and Perkins at 17. And again, like same thing, like rest of the team.
26 points through one player and 40 points through the complete rest of the roster.
Right, and and basically out of a few different 3 other players really had most of the rest of the scoring too. So it's just like, I don't know, like it doesn't seem like a good look. But if you have
what I'm saying is, you understand what I'm saying, like. The offense right now with Swan out seems to go as far as Njai will take it.
Right. Yeah, she's like the engine who can provide that scoring. Like she can she can shoot threes a little bit. Like, but she can really I mean she can get her buckets and in whatever way. So I mean, other than that, and Kayla Ivey definitely can knock down some threes, as we saw in this game. She was kind of on the heat check early, hit a few late. So she could definitely score. Like she's best known as a passer, but like she could definitely shoot the ball. She could score it. So that's good. But like other than that, like and Lester, I think has been pretty reliable overall in the paint.
The
as
problem
well.
is with
But
Leicester is
yeah,
that she gets into way too much trouble in the
foul
paint.
trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Mm. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't get me
Yeah.
wrong. Good player down low. Don't get me wrong. But you know, good player down low. Definitely one of the better presence we've had in a while for women's basketball. Still
Yeah.
gets into way too much trouble.
Makes sense. Yeah. She's like 6'3". I mean, yeah, she has very good size for for a women's basketball paint player, and definitely compared to the competition that she's been facing so far. I don't know, maybe against Iowa is probably a little different, but she's been dominant. She's been using her size, getting boards, getting paint points, because they just can't compete with her on the glass. Like, but obviously, I feel like that's going to be changing in Big Ten play. But still, even then, like a pretty reliable scorer in the paint, which is good to have. You want to have that, and you want to have like someone like Kayla Ivey who can run the offense and shoot the ball, and Nadaye or Nene Njai who definitely have an engine. But other than that, like yeah, it's just like where's the scoring going to come from? That's why you need someone like Lauren Swan to get back in there, because she definitely has those skills, of scoring, shooting, driving. Just she gets scored, like she proved that at Arizona last year. So that's someone we need on the back healthy for Big Ten play. But after this, a long layoff. I mean, compared to what we've seen in the past. So, the last game was on Wednesday, today's Friday, but the next game is going to be not this Saturday, but next Saturday against Lafayette, and that's the final non-conference game of the season. I guess unless they play in the postseason, but last non-conference game of the season. After about a month or so, and a half of non-conference games mainly. So Lafayette, I mean, I guess yeah, you're looking for a bounce back, you're looking for a win. Not really sure how great that team is. They lost to NJIT and FDU, so which Rutgers
We should
beat.
be able to handle them.
Yeah, they beat Wagner by 3 points. They beat Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's been really struggling in women's basketball. I mean, I saw they lost to like a D3 team in the exhibition or something like that. Pretty good one,
Whoa.
but that's just like, yeah, like Scranton, who's apparently like one of the best D3 teams, but that game was supposed to not count on the standings or something, but they played them and Scranton won like 69-63. And yeah,
Beat them
Pittsburgh,
pretty
yeah,
convincingly.
pretty,
It's
yeah,
not
I
like they
mean,
eked
6
out a
points.
1 point victory.
Yeah, exactly. I think yeah, I mean, it looks like they even controlled it for a while, and I mean, yeah, it's pretty nuts,
Not a
honestly.
good look. Not
No,
a good look
I
at
mean that's
all.
like a whole, yeah. It's definitely not. They have won some other of their games there, but they've also, but yeah. Anyway, I mean, I guess my point's like Lafayette also beat them, but they lost to teams like FDU, who Rutgers beat, and JIT, who as good as they
You
are,
know,
they're
I
a
wonder
lower level team.
even at a team like that, I wonder if Pittsburgh played like its walk-ons and like it's like last bit of the rotation, then they started to get beat up a little bit, and Pittsburgh probably went, "Oh crap, get the starters going," like
I don't know, maybe.
sometimes I feel like that happens where you especially in those exhibition games, you want to get the
Yeah,
bottom of your roster experience, but then you also don't want to end up being a laughing stock. So you probably they go out, but and then the D3 team starts lighting them up a little bit, and then you're like, oh crap, get the starters back in here, and then it's like doesn't work out too well all the time, but
yeah.
it didn't work out too well then.
It's a
I'm just
pretty,
wondering if that's what happened.
yeah. I mean, it's a pretty nut situation, honestly, like all around. But yeah. Anyway, I mean, I guess that that yeah. That aside, I mean, Rutgers versus Lafayette in women's basketball. Yeah, I mean, like I said, should be a win. Like going through this stuff with Pittsburgh, which that's just a wild story altogether, honestly. But that's another. I guess Pitt did lose to Lafayette by a bit more than they lost to Scranton, but then Lafayette still also lost to teams like FDU again and NJIT, who, like I said, as good as they are, they still lost to Minnesota by about 50 points. So that's yeah, and that's also not great. Minnesota did take Maryland to overtime. And nearly lost or nearly won there, but yeah, I mean for Rutgers it should still be a game that they could win, or should win. But then after
Mhm.
that, the schedule gets a bit tougher for the Scarlet Knights as well, because they go into Big Ten play after Lafayette. So you really get one more test to kind of, warm up, or not really warm up, but kind of it's almost like a cool down in a way because after like a week like Iowa and Princeton, it's like you're kind of taking a step back. You're looking to get in the win column,
It's your
coming
last
off
chance to
that.
get right.
Yeah, your last chance to get right. It's almost like when Rutgers play teams like, Ohio, Miami. Ohio are still a bit more of a competition, and then you play Norfolk State, and you kind of have like almost like in a way you have like almost like a week off, and then the next week it's like Iowa Big Ten play, and it's like a big jump again because that's what women's basketball is going to go through too. They played a team like Iowa, who's really good, and then Princeton, who's also still pretty good, then Lafayette, who's probably not as good, and then you play a team like Michigan State on the road, who's ranked, so they're
Yeah.
about as good as Princeton, maybe a little bit better. And then
Hopefully,
Wisconsin,
we're all healthy by that point. Everybody,
yeah, yeah. But
nobody's
then you're exactly
nicked up.
you're in the Big Ten gauntlet swing of things, and then
All
and
hands on deck. All hands
e-
on deck.
exactly, then you're playing anybody that you get at that point. So I mean, like now not every team is going to be as hard as as tough as Iowa, obviously, but every team's going to be pretty good. There's no easy games, and some teams are even going to be better, like number 7 Maryland, number 6 Michigan, who are both home games by the way, and yeah, they're going to be in the fire. So I mean,
Hmm.
games every few days, travel on the road at home. So it's just going to be like the Big Ten gauntlet officially gets rolling December 28th. And then January 1st, New Year's Day, they have a home game against Wisconsin at 2 p.m. So that should be interesting before all the football gets going that day, I guess. But or something like that. But like, yeah, I'm just realizing like you probably have to write the recap and all that stuff.
What Arnav is saying to all of our listeners out there is that he's saying January 2nd. You best believe you should have on the banks bookmarked and be refreshing it every ten
Right.
minutes because there's going to be a lot of new content for you all to view.
Yeah, yeah. Women's basketball. Oh yeah, and I'm also going to be after each round of the playoffs, I'm also going to be doing CFB recaps, like to continue the national series there. So that's going to be a lot of fun. I mean, it's been fun doing the rankings, but doing the actual games is going to be really fun. So you definitely stay tuned for all of that. So I mean, obviously, women's basketball gets going early. Football's going to be going on, I guess, during that. After that, the Rose Bowl. A lot of Big Ten in there as well. So yeah, keep tuned. But I mean, in terms of women's basketball, like, yeah, Gauntlet gets started, travel gets started. The twice a week games and tough opponents every couple of games basically at least, and the rest of them are still going to be at Rutgers level or better. So every game's going to be a tough one, and there's they're just going to be in the heat of the fire. So I mean, how many wins can they get in Big Ten play? I guess that's a question. I'm not entirely too sure, honestly. Like, but we'll have to find out. Hopefully, like you said, they can get enough to make it to the Big Ten tournament at least, which they have been doing that last few seasons, I believe. So yeah, I mean, hopefully they
Mhm.
can end up back over there, and we'll see how things go. But I mean, it just I don't know. After seeing Iowa and Princeton and how they've done against some of the better non-conference teams, even the ones that they've won, like it just doesn't look too promising because defensively and offensively, like they just don't look consistent. Like they'll go on long stretches where they don't score like a single point, and even against like the mid majors, and that just I don't know. Like I don't know
It's
if that's
not a
gonna work.
recipe for success.
Wait, what?
It's not a recipe for success.
No,
However,
I
it should
mean,
be noted
yeah,
that
you
Coach
can't.
East Washington is not concerned with these long streaks
Oh yeah,
in
right.
offensive scoring. According to her, she is not concerned.
Yeah, well, I guess we'll have to find out and see how that goes. I mean, I feel like Iowa's a different thing. Like I don't know. I just that was just concerning because they just couldn't score altogether. But like, even against Princeton, it's like kind of just beginning of the game struggle, end of the game struggle. It just seems like there's like a lot of these types of stretches, or sometimes it's the other way. They'll in the beginning and end they'll be good. In the middle, they'll greatly struggle to score points. Even against teams like Siena, St. Peter's, where they have the advantage, like it just ends up getting like that. So it's just like maybe I was the anomaly where they only scored 36, like things like that. And even that was garbage time. I don't think that's going to happen too many more times, I think. But, at the same time, like putting together a full 4 quarters every game, that's been a consistent issue no matter who the team is. So that's what worries me in Big Ten play.
Yeah, and for good reason. I mean, you're talking about a team that constantly goes on like 5 minute um, scoring droughts. And you know how in football people talk about the middle eight? I'm going to talk about the middle 20 for women's basketball.
Right.
When you have 10 minutes in that middle 20 where you're not scoring, that is not a recipe for success in any conference, much less the Big Ten, which is arguably the best women's basketball conference out there, aside from what I would
Hmm.
assume to be the ACC. Um,
Yeah.
but I would still say the Big Ten is probably better.
I think so, especially now that you have teams like, I mean, on top of teams like Maryland, Iowa, and like Michigan, like which are all pretty good. You have like now you have like the cream of the crop in USC and UCLA coming in, who are perennial powers in the
Mhm.
sport. Like national championship caliber teams that are make deep runs. Like last year, I think both of them were like 1 seeds or something, or maybe one was a 2, but they both they were both like right up there with like teams like UConn and. They made pretty deep runs. So I think UConn, I think last year was just like too good. But yeah, I mean, that's like the level of competition. Like players like Lauren Betts and Juju Watkins, like the absolute like top teams in the country now. Some of them are in the Big Ten, and many of the other ones are also in the Big Ten. So it's not only a top heavy league, but it's a deep league. So I mean, yeah, and yeah, I mean it's even more than I would say men's basketball, women's basketball, Big Ten, like definitely top conference. Men's
Oh
basketball kind of
yeah,
has the heavy hitters, but I don't know. It's a weird one with how like the men's and Big Ten basketball because it's a very tough conference, but it just usually doesn't pan out in March, I guess, with the exceptions of maybe Michigan State sometimes and Purdue who made like a deep run, but oftentimes it just doesn't pan out for the Big Ten and men's basketball. But women's basketball, it's a different story of like Caitlin Clark's Iowa, you have UCLA, you have USC, you have like all sorts of teams like that in this conference. So yeah, it's a pretty tough one. That's for sure. So and for Rutgers, like, I mean, even,
Mhm.
it's weird. Like even being the bottom of the best is good. So it's like even with football, it's like yeah, well they still beat a lot of ACC teams, but nobody wants to hear that, obviously. But like I mean, it's true.
Yeah.
Probably
Nobody wants to hear about how Rutgers football would be 8-4 in the ACC. Nobody
it
wants to hear
sucks
about
because I mean, it makes the ACC look bad, and also it feels like a slap in the face to a lot of Rutgers fans who are like, no, they wouldn't, or that doesn't make sense, or I don't care, like, that kind of attitude, which I get, but like, again, like, like, the Big Ten's a tough conference in football, and again, even like, yeah, some of these teams that are 5-7 and 6-6 and whatever, like, even probably Maryland would probably be like not that bad in the ACC, like, honestly, like, as bad as they are, but women's basketball, like kind of same story. Like you see how the non-conference went for the Rutgers, and you see what happens in Big Ten play, and like like that's the level of difference of competition. But at the same time, they haven't exactly been invincible in the non-conference either. They've lost a couple of games here and there, but I mean, things are only going to get tougher. Is I guess my point in this. So it's gonna be a tough run for Rutgers women's basketball. But yeah, I mean, a long layoff, like I said, Lafayette and then Michigan State, and we'll see how many games they can win because there's definitely going to be winnable games in there for Rutgers. It's just a matter of how many and when they come, and can they make the Big Ten tournament? Can they, take the next step, show progress? Because I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, I think that's really what you're looking for in all these sports. Like sometimes you're not really thinking about national championships, obviously, but you're thinking about can we take the next step? Can we get better? Can our record improve year over year? Like all of those things, like that's what really matters at the end of the day. So we'll see how Rutgers does, but I don't know. I mean, it's just doesn't look too promising after these couple, but I think the good news with the Princeton game is they showed that Iowa should be like an anomaly and it shouldn't be like what you expect against like high major competition. And although Princeton's a mid major, they are one of the best. They've beaten like 6 high major teams, and that's probably like closer to your average Big Ten team than like in Iowa, for example. You know what I mean? They're probably like your average, not what you're gonna get from Rutgers in the Big Ten, and Iowa's probably like, oh, that's really bad. So I mean, I guess my point is like, although Rutgers might not be the best, they're not gonna be like they should not be like the laughing stock that we saw on Saturday on a consistent basis.
Yep. Yeah, I agree completely. Um, we've kind of beaten the horse about women's
Yeah.
basketball to death at this point. We're going to take a quick pivot over to men's basketball. Obviously, we have the Garden State Hardwood Classic up against Seton Hall. Um, rivalry game, probably one of the only true rivalries that Rutgers has in this new
Right.
age of college athletics.
Yeah.
Um, so that should always be a good
Yeah, it's
game.
always a fun
Hopefully,
one.
for Rutgers to have the best time, the game has to devolve into a rock fight like it usually does.
Yeah.
That's the best chance that Rutgers has to win. But
Oh,
Seton Hall is
definitely.
like really good this
They
season.
are really good this
They're
season.
really good this season.
I
Same
know
thing
it
with
scares me.
Princeton.
Like they're usually not that good. Like,
Yeah,
they're really
Princeton is
yeah.
receiving votes. Princeton received votes. Same thing with Seton Hall. They're also receiving votes to be
Mm,
ranked. They downed a defeated NC State team. Their only
yeah.
loss came against USC in the Maui Invitational,
Right.
and there was
Right.
plenty of questionable calls at the end of that game.
Yeah. The one at the end where
Did
it went
not.
off. Yeah,
Oh
that went
boy.
wrong.
If I was Seton Hall, I would have probably said something like to the Maui Invitational, like send them like a letter.
Yeah.
Like, we got screwed. I
You
mean,
can
like,
say it like went off the USC player, and they said it was USC basketball, like the one
yeah,
right
they
at the
got
end.
like it wasn't like one of those things like you can debate. No, it was like if you took a second and
Yeah.
actually just opened your eyes during the film, you would have been like, "That's USA ball. Yeah, that's Seton Hall ball."
Yeah. That's.
Like, and I mean, like, not like one of those things where it's like, oh, they let go at the same second. I mean, like, if you literally
Yeah.
like,
Literally, he threw it off of him, I think, and
yeah,
yeah, like that's what it
yeah,
was. I don't
like
know. It's
if you just
bizarre.
opened your eyes, you would have made the right call. And
Stupid.
I'm not talking. I'm just talking about anybody with eyeballs. I mean,
I mean, it's just insane. But anyway, I mean, besides that, Seton Hall hasn't lost a game this season. So like,
and they've looked convincing in most of them. I mean,
Kansas
they
State
really
they beat them
haven't.
on the road. Like, I don't know how
They
good
haven't
that team
struggled
is,
with.
but
Yeah. Um, AJ Stanton McRae is their top scorer with 13 points per game. But the problem with Seton Hall is not the flash that they have at the top, but they'll kill you with their depth. They have 7 players who average over 7 points a game compared to Rutgers 4. They
boy,
almost have double the amount of contributions
it's not good.
coming off of the bench that Rutgers has, and it's really kind of
Yeah,
incredible how deep they are. Yes, I do understand that players like Jermichael Davis and Dylan Grant are averaging more points than Seton Hall's top player, but if you go down their roster, they kill you with their depth. Because
right.
some of their top contributors aren't even on the starting lineup.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, I mean it's
Mm-hmm.
pretty not good for Rutgers. Yeah, they have a lot of guys who could score the ball. I mean, like looking at this, I mean Adam Clark, Elijah Fisher, and then obviously AJ Stetton McRae, who we mentioned him, but yeah,
Mm-hmm.
they have a very deep bench. A lot of different guys who could score. Um, Najai Hines, I mean, that was a name that I was hearing that, really broke out in the beginning of the season for Seton Hall. He's from Plainfield. He was like a big time like recruit in college basketball, and he went to Seton Hall, and he's been contributing already as a freshman. So he also had like 11 points in the last game, and so that's going to be like a force to be reckoned with. Inside, definitely someone who could score. But yeah, I mean I mean they have like 5 or 6 different guys who can really give you buckets, and a few others who can come off the bench on top of that. So like Rutgers is gonna have their hands full on Saturday. But it's always a fun game. It's a rivalry game, and I think after what Rutgers played last week, this is still gonna probably be a much more winnable game than going against now they're number 6 Purdue, because they took a really bad loss against Iowa State the other night, or on Saturday. Where there's like a whole bunch of really good games on Saturday for college basketball. Like there's Michigan State Duke, there's Purdue Iowa State. So that was just a really fun day of sports. There's of course Ohio State Indiana in conference championships, but Iowa State beat Purdue by 23. Purdue then rebounded by beating Minnesota 85-57. So, but yeah, Rutgers, fell to Purdue by 16. They fell to Michigan then by about 40 points. So, I mean, Michigan's just been steamrolling everybody. So, like, I don't think anyone should really be too surprised. I mean, they finally kind of had a more respectable game, which was 89-61 against Villanova on Tuesday. So, like, that's like a more respectable game and that's probably a pretty decent Villanova team, I would assume as well. So, I mean, like, It's probably no slouch of a Nova team. But and then Michigan goes to Maryland. But I guess my point being for Rutgers, this is still probably a step down competition compared to what they've played. So they're probably it's not really a house money situation, but it's just after going through that, Rutgers is going to be motivated to win this game, get back in the win column, play loose and free, hopefully. And I still don't think it's going to be enough to win the game, but
I don't even know if it's going to be enough to keep it close. That's the problem.
That's it sounds good to be yeah, well, they just played Alabama and Georgia in football. Now they're playing now they're playing Iowa, or now they're playing I don't know what your SEC equivalent of that is, but an average team that's still better than you. But now but that's kind of the reality of it, and it's a rivalry game, so those can always get topsy turvy, especially in a game like this series has been wacky and weird and bizarre almost in the last few years. But Rutgers has been on the upside of I think the last couple of them. So, but then again, Seton Hall was really bad. Rutgers also wasn't great, but they were better. And last year, even with Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey, they needed Harper's 3-pointer to beat a really bad Hall team at home. And this year, Seton Hall looks
but you know what? We're going to talk about a really bad Hall team. I mean, let's not deny ourselves anything. That Rutgers basketball team, it wasn't
they weren't great either.
It wasn't like they were 38 or 33, 32, 32. Sorry, 32-0, and it was a bad team that was played close by an even worse team.
Yeah, because the Hall was really, really bad last year, and Rutgers was also by no means good, but they were at least better than that. And Seton Hall definitely played them close because Seton Hall basically didn't even they barely won conference games last year. They won a couple and won in overtime. They did beat UConn later in the year, which I thought was hilarious. But yeah, they had a really, really rough season last year. And then the next meeting they lose by 31 at the same UConn team. But it was just a disastrous season for Seton Hall. They had 7 wins. Rutgers had 15. So you know what I mean? Again, Rutgers wasn't great, but they were still much better than the Hall team. This year it's almost reverse, where now Seton Hall's the much better team, and Rutgers is the one that's kind of limping. But people are saying, well, if Rutgers now is the one that wins, that could really screw up Seton Hall's resume, because that's kind of what's seemed to happen the last couple of years as well. So I mean, it's just usually it's been kind of almost the other way around. But Rutgers has been kind of the better team, and it's still been close. But now if Seton Hall loses to Rutgers, it could really mess them up, because that's probably a Q3 loss or something I get at this point. So, but yeah, anyway.
See, I have a proposal. This doesn't have anything to do. I guess it has a little bit to do with Rutgers Seton Hall, but I have a proposal for all the major men's basketball teams in New Jersey. With Rider likely on their way out thanks to their horrible financial situation, and that college might even close just in general.
Oh, geez.
Since there might be, looks like there might be 6. What's it called? 6 major college basketball teams in New Jersey between Seton Hall, Princeton, Monmouth, St. Peter's, and who was the other one? Seton Hall, St. Peter's, Monmouth, Princeton. There's another one, isn't there? Isn't there another? Oh, NJIT.
Yeah, Monmouth, Rider, Princeton, NJIT, Rutgers. Yeah, those
so just like the NBA does.
Oh, I know.
We should have the New Jersey Cup.
Yeah, we definitely should have that. That would be a lot of fun. A lot.
I don't get me wrong. I love our rivalry with Princeton, but how cool would, instead of it just being Princeton, they had a non-conference New Jersey Cup? That would be
Seton Hall, Rutgers, Rider, FDU, Princeton.
Exactly.
Yeah, that would be a lot of fun. And I mean,
don't get me wrong. Every year it's going to go to Rutgers, Seton Hall, or Princeton.
Right. Yeah, and it's not going to go to NJIT or Rider or the other ones. But it could still be a fun tournament for everybody to be involved at. And maybe they have it one year at Prudential and 1 year at Rutgers, and 1 year at Princeton or something along those lines. So people can experience the biggest arenas, I guess, in Jersey. And but yeah, I mean, it could be a lot of fun. I know Philly does it with their 5 basketball schools. They have Temple, Villanova, Penn. I forgot what the other ones are like, but there's a couple other Drexel and like somebody else like, um, but St. Joe's, I think. But yeah, I mean, they do it with their, their five, and I think all of them are in like different conferences, and it's like a little thing
Wait,
that
I'm sorry. Who does it?
like I think Philadelphia does a
Oh, okay.
tournament like that with their five schools, which are all in different leagues, and but yeah, I mean, it's like a little fun like thing that happens, and it's like almost like a mini tournament. So yeah, I mean, why
I was
can't
to say, why not? I mean, it's
right?
a. I thought it was a fun idea. I was listening to the NBA Cup coverage, and I'm
Yeah.
sorry, the NBA Cup is the stupidest thing.
It's really dumb. Like I don't even care like who wins that or not. Like none of that matters at all.
Right.
Um,
But
but
this would actually be exciting. It preserves regional rivalries. I mean, New Jersey is known for basketball, and maybe it's a great way to recruit across the state. I'm just saying it's a fun idea. It's a fun idea.
it's definitely a fun idea for sure, and it could be some good non-conference games wins for Rutgers, and also a bit, some challenges, some regional superiority, like all of the things that you love about basketball, like in one
Hmm.
mini New Jersey tournament. I know that'd be a lot of fun. It'd probably have to happen over like a weekend, and two schools will play each other, and they rotate it in, and I don't know, so
I'm
some
just
sort
saying
of like format like that. But yeah, a championship after the group stage or whatever, and yeah, I mean it would be a lot of fun, like for sure. I mean, like, maybe instead of, I don't know. I mean, I do enjoy like the Vegas tournament, but like, like, I mean,
well, don't get me wrong, but we play all these teams at the beginning of the season anyway. I mean, we
right. We
play
play, yeah,
American, we
exactly.
play Ryder.
St. Peter's, that's another one.
Why
And
can't we have Monmouth,
FDU,
St. Peter's, Princeton, and then Seton Hall, who we also play at the beginning of
right.
every year?
Yeah,
It's
exactly. There's
doable.
like a lot of, yeah, Monmouth, St. Peter's, NJIT, like, yeah, FDU,
Exactly.
like a lot of, there's like, yeah, you can make an 8-team field out of that and just have fun. Like, I mean, yeah, like, and they can still go to Vegas or whatever later in the year if they want to. Like, nobody's stopping
Or
that.
go to Vegas at the normal time. Like I said, we had 5 games before Vegas, and an
Right.
18 an 8-team field takes less than 5 games.
Yeah,
You
exactly. It
know?
could just be almost like a knockout stage thing, or just like a mini bracket if you really wanted it to, and the losers play consolation games if they have to. Like it could just be, yeah. I mean, right? Like this is a really good idea. Like I mean, I don't know. Maybe you can make an article on it or something like later on. But yeah, it definitely sounds like a lot of fun. And it's not like we don't play these teams. Like we played like St. Peter's and FDU and like all these different school Monmouth. Like we play them in the non-conference or similar teams. So why not just have a little jersey bracket. But anyway, I mean, I guess going back to our point, so we have Seton Hall, the one I guess team that we are playing this year. No Princeton on this year's schedule, but it's going to be a tough one. I mean, it's not. I know, like I mean, on one hand, it's like compared to what we just played, going to be a step down from that, but it's still going to be a very tough one for Rutgers this year. They have a lot of scorers. Yeah, I mean they have size. They're definitely the better team this year. So again, Rutgers going to be playing kind of with house money, but also with the intention of spoiling them. And if they can, that kind of puts a whole wrench in a lot of things. That's going to be a tough. It would be a brutal loss for Rutgers, but it would be a really brutal loss for Seton Hall. So hopefully Rutgers can, I guess, play spoiler in this one and get
Oh,
get
I
back.
would love to give Frank the Tank another brutal loss. I'll tell
Yeah.
you right now, I can't. I hope we mess with his Barstool account so much if we win. Like
Oh,
I just
it would be really funny if we did. I don't know. I mean, yeah, again, never say never, right? Like, all things can happen in this game, and I'm excited. It's always a fun one. I mean, we just had Penn State for football. We saw
never
what that was
say
like.
never say never, but I will say unlucky. And unlike Penn
Unlucky,
State
yeah.
and Rutgers in football, Rutgers Seton Hall in basketball is an actual rivalry.
Yeah, exactly. This one goes back and forth. It's not like the same feeling, but I mean, intensity wise, it feels probably like it's your closest comparison to the rivalry between Rutgers and Penn State, and the vibes and all of that. Like in Seton Hall, Rutgers is almost more fun because it's like it goes back and forth, and there's that element of it too, and so yeah, no, it should be a really fun series. I guess anybody who loves Rutgers or Seton Hall basketball, like loves this game. So I mean
Hmm.
that's pretty much where we have it. So and then after that, men's basketball ends the year with Penn and Dell State. So that's the final two non-conference games for their their season, I guess, and to kind of in the holiday spirit. And then after that, like just like women's basketball, you have Ohio State and Oregon. So I mean, Big Ten play gets rolling, and a couple home games to open it up, and yeah, from there we see. So I mean, should be fun. I mean, it's always a good time, but yeah, looking forward to it. Hopefully a couple more wins that you add together at the end of the or at the end of the calendar year and at the end of the non-conference slate, and hopefully they can also get that one over Seton Hall before facing off against Penn Del State, get some momentum rolling, and enter Big Ten play healthy and ready to get the ball rolling, because just like women's basketball, like once it gets going, it's gonna get tough, and yeah.
Well, I agree with you completely there. Hopefully, Rutgers basketball can deliver presents to their fan base by delivering them victories over the last three non-con opponents.
Around the Christmas
I was going
holiday
to say
time.
around the Christmas season, time to get festive, holly and jolly, and what better way to do that is with 3 straight Rutgers wins.
Exactly.
We're going to take kind of our last pivot of the podcast here over to the football side of things. We do have some news in the defensive coordinator search. Obviously, just going to run through everything real quick. We do know a couple names that have been highly rumored to go to Rutgers, or at least Rutgers wanted them. Rob Arvich, he went from San Diego State, unfortunately got signed with Nebraska. Vince Kehirs, I hope I'm saying that right. Rutgers was in on him. He was the DC over at Toledo, but he gets picked up by Syracuse. Funny enough, Nebraska was interested in Kears before he got picked up by Syracuse. Don't know exactly what happened there. Kears goes to Syracuse instead. Nebraska still has an opening. They get Rutgers' other candidate, which is just,
it's annoying. It's just like, we gotta, act on this fast, like you said, because I mean, the portal's gonna open up soon. Like last year, Rutgers kind of,
cannot wait till February again. We need to have one by the end of the year, so it's time to get moving.
Right, because last year that didn't happen. Then they ended up, with Smith and Sparber, and obviously we saw how that happened, and it was just like, hopefully the third time's like the charm with him, I guess, but it obviously wasn't. So like it got so bad that like I don't even think people could believe it, like what they were seeing out there. So they got fired like almost immediately after the season. Like has she even like talked to the media like since then, like, or like I don't think he hasn't really said anything, like I mean like about any of that, right? Or maybe he has, I don't know, but
right.
But I don't know if he's had like an official press conference, but I mean everybody knows, it's no secret. But I mean, it's just like I guess he a thing, but he did have one for signing day, obviously, all that good stuff. But I mean, hopefully they can get somebody, because like you don't want to be in a situation where
not like last year.
Yeah, you have like no options, and then you have to take whatever comes to you, and whether they're good or bad or in the middle. And obviously, in this case, it was worse than that. So, like, I mean,
the good thing with this current cycle is that with all the firings, with all the whatever happened at Michigan, like,
oh my god, that was just like, it's an insane story. What happened?
That's just, to my knowledge, like he was having like an affair. Sharon Moore was having an affair with a
staffer,
with a female staffer on the lacrosse team, right? Wasn't it
No, she was on the football. She was his staffer, executive assistant.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Then what was the footage of him at the lacrosse game? I don't know.
I'm not sure.
There was footage of him at a lacrosse game that was somehow tied into all of this, but
I don't know. It's like I can't even. I don't know what.
He ended up getting like arrested by Ann Arbor police or
something.
Yeah,
because he like, I don't know. He like went to her house. It was like it just got really. Yeah, exactly, and himself too. It's like it got really scary because like I think I don't know. It was like it was bizarre. Like I think at some point she wanted to stop and he didn't want to. I don't know. It was like something like that, and then he ended up firing her, and then she ended up or because like I think people were getting suspicious about like the pay raise, and he ended up letting her go. Then she ended up reporting him. He's like, why did you let me go? I'm gonna, and then like that whole thing like spiraled out of control, obviously. So it's just a mess. Like to even do that in the first place, even be in that situation, when you're married, when you're the coach
Right.
of a team, like it's
3
ridiculous.
kids.
But
3 kids.
yeah, exactly. It's not even like he was single, and even then it would have still not been, acceptable. But it just
Again.
like a whole thing that it really shouldn't have. And it's just like not what you do especially when you're in a position of power at a
Prestigious university.
at a school like Michigan, and or any, what I mean, like in a job like that, to throw all of that away because you have an affair when you already have a wife, like it's just, and a family. It's just like, it's so bizarre to me.
This
like,
whole carousel.
But it's just that was just really bizarre. But this whole carousel's been crazy because Matt Campbell getting hired.
You guys also think, you got to think about the stuff that happened at Penn State, that disaster. You got to talk about the Kiffin situation at LSU and Ole Miss. Now this at Michigan. It's like, what is going on in this current coaching cycle?
Yeah, it's just like absolute insanity, and all these positions are gonna have to get filled like at some point. So I mean,
but the problem is, or not the problem, but the good thing is, with all of this craziness, talented defensive coordinators are all of a sudden finding themselves
up. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, without a head coach. Yeah, exactly. So I mean, there's definitely openings that are coming out of all
and
these.
Rutgers, compared to all these other positions, has a opportunity for stability. No matter how you slice it. Out of all the craziness happening at the big top schools in college football,
right,
Rutgers has stability. And that sounds like completely wild to say, but that stability could, in the end, prove to be a very fruitful asset in the current chaos of this coaching cycle.
Yeah, no, yeah, that is the weird part, that they could almost like take advantage of that in a way, and they're almost a more stable situation. They have a head coach, they have an offensive side of the football that's really firing on all cylinders. Now you gotta really sell it to these defensive coaches and say, hey, like, look at this team that we have around us. Look at the way the offense is playing. Look at, we have, we're a defensive minded team. We need somebody with that mentality.
You could honestly market to somebody that's a defensive coordinator and say, we don't need your defense to be good. We just need your defense to be average.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, right. And they'll say, like, look at all the talent we had on this on the other side of the ball. Look how, we were with this type of defense, we did this well, and we just need some sort of stability here, and the ball's rolling. Like the bar is very low. So I mean,
not even stability. We just need competency on the other side of the ball, and we're fine.
That can't be hard for people, and and whoever gets the job is going to be, everybody's going to be grateful because of what happened last year. So like, like, I mean, yeah, even if the defense goes from bad to mediocre, like even then, like,
but a mediocre defense with this team probably got us to 7 wins last season.
Yeah, I mean, probably even like a bad one, like would have been decently like better than this. Like this wasn't just bad; this was like beyond awful. Like an averagely bad defense probably gets you to a bowl game, and like a mediocre one probably gets you like 7 to 8 wins. Like
because if you think about it, in the games against Iowa, Penn State, and Minnesota, if you hold 2 of those under 30 points, we win.
Right? Yeah. If you get like one stop at any point, like it's just like a problem. Like, I mean, I don't know. It's just the whole So anyway, point is, we need to get on the board with a hire before the portal opens up. We don't want to be in a situation like last year where things, we wait and all the good names are taken and we're kind of in a mess, and Rob Smith comes back for like the first time. No, definitely not that one.
Oh God, please no. Anyway, Greg Schiano often makes great claims for how hard he works, and I do believe that he works hard, and I also believe that he finally has the staffers on the administrative side of things that are working hard along with them. But it is now time. It is time to prove that both of you are working hard. Get somebody signed. Get this done. That's it. And don't just bring like some random schmuck in. Bring somebody with experience. Whatever. Experience, track record. We have the candidates are out there due to this crazy coaching cycle. You have finally the administration that is rowing in the same direction as the football team. The football team is going to hopefully continue their efforts of trying to just simply outwork everybody. But now it's time to put it all together, get somebody signed, and start attacking this portal class. Because if you believe that other schools are not going to start reaching out until January 1st, you're fooling yourself, because everybody in this current age of college football tampers. It's the truth.
Right. Yeah.
Everybody's
100%.
tampering. You can't wait. You cannot wait to start reaching out until the 1st, because then you're going to end up with nobody. Get this coach in, get the staffers in, and let's go.
Yeah, let's get that ball rolling. Exactly. And then I guess other than that, some awards. So Antoine Raymond and Jet Elad were named finalists for the John Cornish Trophy, which honors the best Canadian in college football. And I believe there's only 5 finalists, and 2 of them are from Rutgers. So I mean, there might be a chance Rutgers wins one of those. I mean, especially if you're looking at Antoine Raymond in the season he had. I'm not sure who the other nominees are. I think you.
Well, I do know that Elad has been nominated for the past 3 years, I want to say, and has not won it. They might just give it to him because they'll be like, we nominated you 3 years in a row. Here you go.
Right. Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. That's exciting. I know like Big Ten awards and everything have been out, and we covered all that, like the honorable mentions, the second team guys.
Raymond and Duff for the second team.
Yeah, right. Those are the biggest ones. Heisman week is this week. I think Mendoza's pretty much like a lock for that at this point. We'll see.
To me, it's either a race between him and Diego Pavia, and I really don't like saying that because, but Pavia is one of the. We know it's not going to a running back, and if you think that it is, you're fooling yourself.
Yeah, it didn't go to a running back last year when Ashton Genty had like 2,500 yards or something like crazy.
But that's because he outperformed all the quarterbacks by a country mile, and everybody that didn't pick him,
Travis Hunter.
Yeah.
That was a weird Heisman race, but yeah, this year, I mean, you have a player who plays both sides of the ball. You have a really good running back, and this year we're back to like the quarterbacks, and it's really, it's definitely between Mendoza and Sayin, but Mendoza outperformed Sayin in the game that was last week, and
I think that's gonna come back to hurt him. I think that championship game is gonna be the reason why it's less of a Mendoza and Sayin and more of a Mendoza Pavia race, because Pavia has the leg threat. None of them have the leg threat.
Yeah, I think Mendoza was always the front runner in the race, but Sayin was the other one. But I think because of the win, and also because Mendoza had like his Heisman moments,
and Sayin did not look good in that game.
No, he didn't.
Sayin did not look good.
He threw a pick. Both of them, I think, did actually. But
Mendoza. But the difference is Mendoza got the win.
Yeah, Mendoza recovered. Yeah, they both threw picks, but yeah, Mendoza got the win. He recovered, and he threw some in pressured situations. He threw some really nice like footballs to Charlie Becker. I mean, that was I love when Gus Johnson was just like Charlie B from Nashville, Tennessee, and he he has like these things that he says. But yeah, and Charlie B was just a beast at receiver too. Mendoza's also a national treasure if he's listen to those interviews. But anyway, I mean, so that's going on. I know the SEC released their conference schedule yesterday, or their season schedule. So
guys, it was so glorious to see 9 conference games. Like they
LSU at Ole Miss to open the SEC slate is just like chef's kiss. Like that is going to be so much fun. Like I mean, Lane Kiffin going back to Oxford early in the season. I know they're going to make that like a primetime game. Like, oh man, that's just going to be glorious. Like, cannot wait. So, yeah, but probably game day is going to be there and whatnot. But I mean, in terms of that's all the drama that goes with that. Going back to the VOT, but that means Big Ten schedule release. I don't think it's too far away. I don't know when it is. They usually don't like announce this like ahead of time. They just I don't know. Maybe they do, but I think it probably means that it's not too far away or something like that. But I think we'll have to keep our eyes posted.
Probably in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah. So we'll see. Like, I mean, I think we know our opponents for next season. We just don't know when we're playing the Big Ten ones, and that's pretty much all that has to be decided. But that order is obviously what matters, and it makes it more entertaining for the fans and all that good stuff. So, when are we playing Michigan and Indiana, who we haven't seen since 2023, and they both look extremely different. And now everything going on at Michigan, like who knows what
they're going to be.
Yeah, who knows what they're going to be. I mean, and Indiana, I mean, they're going to come in here. Like last time we played them, they were like bad. Like we beat them when we were bad. And now like we're kind of like finding our footing a little bit, and they're just like a juggernaut. And like it's like a whole different beast. So, a lot of other teams too that we probably haven't seen in a couple years. But we'll get to that, I guess, when we get to that. But it's like, I think things to keep an eye out for in the future weeks. I'm sure we'll be on top of all of that news that, with the schedule and with college football and all that good stuff.
Arnav's just going to keep pimping us in that sense. So I'm just going to come out and say, stay tuned to On the Banks. But thank you guys so much. That is pretty much everything that we have to talk about here today. A little bit of a lighter week. We tried to give you some decent content by going into depth on the women's basketball season. But as always, please recommend to your friends, rate us 5-star on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, subscribe to our YouTube channel. It really does help out a lot. We have gotten a little bit of it in recent weeks, and it has helped us out immensely. Again, tell your friends, tell everybody. 5 stars, like I said, really does help us out. But from us here on the podcast, that's all we have for you today. Thank you guys so much for watching. And of course, remember that the bells must ring.